Dems win at least one of the seats in the Georgia Senate runoffs as Congress meets to certify the presidential election results, and why the vaccine rollout is failing. A big day of news. Here's what you need to know. Good morning. This is Cheddar's Need2Know podcast for Wednesday, January 6th. I am Jill Wagner with Carlo Versano. Carlo, are you ready for today?
We are in the 53rd week of 2020 here, Jill.
That's really what it feels like.
Right?
Okay, let's just start with what's happening in politics and let's get to Georgia. So Democrat, at this moment, I just want to clarify, it's about 6 a.m. Eastern time. So at this moment, Democrat Raphael Warnock has defeated Senator Kelly Loeffler in one of the two Senate runoffs in Georgia. This is according to an AP race call overnight. This means that Warnock is the first black senator in the state's history, and it puts Democrats one seat away from controlling both chambers of Congress. The Senate race between Senator David Perdue and Jon Ossoff, it's still too close to call this morning. Carlo, early takeaways.
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to be proven wrong, is what it looks like. I thought the Republicans were going to hold on to these seats. The New York Times needle is pointing in the Ossoff race that he's going to, quote, pretty likely win that race. That's not a definite thing. We'll have to wait for the Associated Press to come out and call that, which I expect them to do this morning. Look, the story here, from everything that I can gather, it's black voter turnout. That's the story of the election, not just the election today, but the election in November, too. Black people, once again, saving the Democratic Party's hide. The corollary is that there's also, the reason why Republicans are going to lose the majority has two words, one name, and that name is Donald Trump. The leader of the party telling voters that the whole system is rigged is really not a good turnout strategy. And it also shows that when he's not on the ballot, they have a real problem, regardless of what he's saying from the sidelines. And another takeaway is just Stacey Abrams. Joe Biden and the entire Biden administration should be bowing at the feet of Stacey Abrams today for what she has accomplished for turning Georgia, if not blue, at least potentially blue, purple, right?
Okay, so if you're not familiar with Stacey Abrams, for anyone who's heard the name but not quite sure what she's about, so she ran for governor and lost. And then instead of just continuing to run for office or just getting out of politics, she actually took on this really tough task of reorganizing the entire Democratic Party in the state. And she realized that there were hundreds of thousands of young people who never voted. And she literally went door to door to register voters, engage with people, get out the vote. So she's credited in a big part for turning this southern state, as you mentioned, from red to blue. Whether that's permanent, at the very least, it's now a purple state.
Yep.
And that's what it's about. When analysts and stuff talk about like a ground game, that's what the ground game is. That's why it's so important. Yeah. It's actually, are people registered? Are they motivated to actually vote? Stand in line for hours on election day? It's not so easy in this country to vote. Okay, right. Meanwhile, President Trump's supporters in Congress are going to mount a final long-shot bid to overturn the results of the presidential election today. It isn't the first time lawmakers from the opposing party have challenged election results. Democrats did it twice in the last 2 decades, but the scale and intensity of the challenge is unprecedented. A joint session of Congress is going to gavel in at 1 p.m. Eastern time for the pro forma task of counting the Electoral College votes. 11 Senate Republicans will join dozens of their colleagues in the House to object to some states' votes, forcing a debate that could stretch into the night, possibly into tomorrow. Some say maybe even into Friday.
Oh, God, don't tell me that. Really? This is just such nonsense. But yeah, look, this is a bad day to be Mike Pence or really any Republican senator who's up for re-election in 2022. All of them have to choose basically between their loyalty to the Constitution and their loyalty to President Trump today. That's essentially the distillation of what this is about. The vice president, remember, he has a dual role as also the president of the Senate. So he is the guy who is expected to preside over, the actual physical counting of the votes and then formally name the winner of the election Joe Biden, right? President Trump has said that Pence has the authority to reject electors unilaterally. That's not even remotely true. But it really comes down to how Pence handles the spectacle today and the president's reaction to it. That's what you got to watch for today. The New York Times reporting that Pence has tried to lower expectations with President Trump, telling his boss he doesn't really have the power to actually change the results, which is true. So we'll have to see how he reacts. Pay attention to what happened in Pennsylvania yesterday. This sort of flew under the radar. The Republican Senate in that state refused to seat a Democratic incumbent in the legislature who won his election outright in an election that was certified with him as the winner. They just said they wouldn't seat him, straight up. I mean, that's a very bad sign. That we're starting to see that happen in state houses. And I don't know what to make of it other than feeling very, very queasy about what it means for what's going to happen in future elections in this country.
Right. If you want to win an election, do what Stacey Abrams did. Register people,
Exactly.
engage
Yes.
people. You don't, after the votes are cast, say it wasn't fair, it was fraudulent. You know what? I know that guy won, but we're not going to seat him. This is not how things work. I don't understand.
It's unprecedented, and it's hard to even go into it because it's hard to cover this stuff, right? Because you risk sort of making it feel like it's normalized, but at the other side, you risk not covering it and making it also feel normalized. It's really one of the hardest things I've done in my career. I don't know really how to make it clear how weird this is.
And it's I think of it as a mom right now as just, I'm trying to, my daughter's 2, so she's a little young for this, but she's going to be growing up in a world where you'd like to think that it's fair in some capacity, right? And how do you teach kind of morals and losing graciously, as we always talk about? No one liked the sore loser growing up. And I hope I don't want to divulge, but actually a couple that I'm very close with, their daughter is having trouble. They play Sorry, that card game,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and she has trouble losing the card game. Like anytime, she's 5, by the way, and anytime she's close to losing, she kind of freaks out and she doesn't know how to handle it. And they have to say, and they're almost like, should we just, when they play with her, like, should we change our cards so that she could just win? And they're like, no, she has to lose. This is a life lesson that she's going to have to learn how to lose gracefully and how to figure how this is part of the game.
Right.
I mean, I'm a TV reporter. Do you know how much rejection I've had in my life? At a certain, you have to accept it. That's just what goes on. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on.
Well said. Well said.
Meanwhile, we just want to quickly get on the record with this other story reported overnight by CBS News. The FBI and the FAA are investigating an apparent breach of the frequencies used by air traffic controllers. Multiple air traffic controllers in New York heard the following audio message on Monday.
We are flying a plane into the Capitol Wednesday. Soleimani will be avenged.
Okay, so that refers to Qasem Soleimani, the high-level Iranian general who was assassinated by the United States a year ago this week. Officials do not believe the threat is credible, but they are investigating how the radio frequencies were breached.
Weird story. I mean, I don't think there's nothing to like you said, there's nothing to think that there's a plane that's going to fly into the Capitol building today. I don't think that that's the issue here, but it is how did the Iranians theoretically, or somebody acting on their behalf, get into these frequencies, which obviously are supposed to be very protected for obvious reasons. That also is not related to what is expected to be an otherwise really eventful day in Washington, just in terms of unrest and protests and potential violence. Far-right message boards filled with messages about violence, about carrying guns into the Capitol today. NBC News reporting that extremist experts are extremely worried about what's going to happen in D.C. today and going forward. The city is effectively a fortress. The president is going to speak on the ellipses outside the White House today and try to whip up his supporters as this vote is happening on the other side of Pennsylvania Avenue in Congress. So if you're in D.C., I would suggest that you lay low, which you probably should be doing anyway. But there's definitely the potential for things to go sideways there today.
Switching gears now to what would otherwise be the top story, Los Angeles is now running out of oxygen and rationing care. This, of course, related to COVID, with the city's EMS telling emergency responders not to transport patients who they deem likely to die. According to the Bloomberg vaccine tracker, meanwhile, just 30% of the shots distributed to states so far have been administered. Dr. Fauci says he expects that the pace of vaccinations will pick up momentum and hit 1 million per day soon. So he also said the South African variant is likely already in the U.S., although it hasn't been found yet. You know, one thing I didn't realize is that the U.S., not only have we lagged in basically every measure when it comes to COVID response, we've also lagged in testing the genomes and figuring out which strains are here. So it's that mantra of like, if you don't test, you know, like you don't have more cases if you don't test. Well, you don't know you have variants if you don't look for them. So it's very likely that these variants, as Dr. Fauci has said, have been here and have been here for a while.
Cuomo actually made a good point, I have to say, yesterday in his press conference when he was like, why are we not doing mandatory testing on flights coming into the United States at this point? I mean, we should have been doing that a year ago. Jill, I'm going to lose my mind, I think. I seriously think I'm going to lose my mind. I can't wait for this nonsense in Washington to be over so that we can focus. The only story that actually matters in the United States of America right now is the vaccine rollout, right? Vaccines don't save any lives. Vaccinations save lives, and we are failing at vaccinations. 28% of doses that exist have been administered in the U.S. We're a month into this. That's not acceptable, right? Full stop. Why are we messing this up so bad? I was actually too forgiving yesterday, and I think you were actually in the right in being so worked up about this. I mean, is 2021 just going to be a write-off? Is this where we are?
Some doctors think yes, actually.
Who are the leaders that are stepping up? Where is Dr. Fauci other than being on television all day long? Where is Joe Biden? Right? Joe Biden says 100 million shots in 100 days. That sounds great, man. I'm down with that. How? Where do I get my shot? When do I get my shot? Why are there not pictures of American governors standing inside football stadiums, ushering in senior citizens and first responders by the hundreds to get their vaccines right now? I know it's because we're basically living in like a failed state, but can we not do any of this right? I mean, I know that I shouldn't be surprised that the people who messed up literally everything the last 9-10 months are messing this up too. But I'm so worked up about this, and I'm sorry if I'm going off on one today, but I got plans this summer. I'm not cool with letting another year go down the drain because of this incompetence, right? Not to mention my plans, not to mention the 3,500 people a day who are still dying of this freaking virus, right?
Carlo, you feel the anger that I have felt for a long time. And part of it is because, again, I talk to my parents who are basically like waiting on this, who I haven't seen, who they don't see their granddaughter. And they're like, when are we going to get the vaccine? And I'm like, you guys aren't even on the list in New York. You're not even in, like, I don't know. You guys, both of them, super high risk in their 70s, and they're not even considered first tier, second tier, whatever. It's unbelievable. One quick point, Stephanie Rule, she's an MSNBC anchor. She made this point. She was on the Pivot podcast the other day, and she said, you know, imagine a world where whatever you think of President Trump and his response to coronavirus, he should be owning vaccinations, right? I mean, this was something, Operation Warp Speed, this was what their strategy was. It was never controlling the virus. It was getting a cure in and of itself, you know, and the vaccine was it. She's like, I don't understand why, you know, imagine for the past, since November, or since the vaccine came out, instead of fighting the election and talking about fraud and whatever, he put his face, Trump vaccination centers, put his face on every vial. He could have branded this and gone out looking like such a winner. And I just thought about it, and it's like, why isn't he owning this? You know, all he's tweeting about is the election and fraud and blah, blah, blah. You did it. You got vaccines here. Now figure out how to get them into people's arms.
This is what his supporters and all Republicans should be furious about, because first, putting aside the fact that he could have won he could have won re-election if he even tried. This could be his legacy. People could look back and be like, you know what? I didn't like Donald Trump at all, but the guy got us the vaccine. right? And that could be his legacy, and something maybe if he really does want to run in 2024, that could be it. But they've utterly failed. They've utterly failed. I was hoping, Jill, in my mind, I was like, maybe I'm gonna get vaccinated in March, April, maybe by Memorial Day. I don't think that's likely.
No.
I think it's gonna be the summer, and then the second shot, they'll probably end up. We'll run out, right? So we won't get our second shots until the fall. I don't know. I'm hoping that I'm wrong here. Let's hope. I've often been wrong, so let's hope that I'm wrong here and Dr. Fauci's right and we're stepping this up. But it's hard not to be frustrated. And if you're frustrated right now, you are not alone.
A doctor that I was listening to was saying, write off 2021. It's done. I mean, we're in a terrible place. The vaccinations are not going to make any bit of difference at the pace that we're going. So, I mean, I hope that that's not correct. All right, let's switch to some sports news. Carlo, Alabama senior Devonta Smith has won the Heisman Trophy. It's the first time a wide receiver has won this prestigious award since Michigan's Desmond Howard in 1991. Love Desmond Howard. Accepting the trophy virtually, the 6'1", 175-pound Smith addressed kids who may think they're too small to play football. He said, quote, "I've been doubted a lot just because of my size. Really, it just comes down to you. Put your mind to it. You can do it. No job is too big." Oh.
I like that. Yeah. He's astounding. By the way, Alabama.com or AL.com, which is their local, it's a local newspaper there, but I forget what they're called. But they're legit. Anyway, they're reporting that the national championship game between Ohio State and Alabama on Monday could actually be postponed. You know why? Because of COVID protocols and Ohio State not having enough players to field. So I think that it's hard for me to imagine that they will cancel that game just based on what a moneymaker it is, but it's on the table.
Trust me, my husband has his finger on the pulse of this story. As of now, they're still practicing. I think the good news is they won't cancel the game. That if they have to postpone it, they have to postpone it. Meanwhile, the 2021 Grammys have been postponed from January 31st to March 14th because of the out-of-control coronavirus outbreak in LA that we were just talking about. The award ceremony is already planned to be a limited virtual show with just presenters and performers allowed on site at the Staples Center and artists getting their awards virtually.
Los Angeles, I mean, I know we went off on one on the vaccine, but Los Angeles really is a disaster zone right now. They're behind in their vaccine rollout. We haven't even seen the holiday surge yet, right? Keep that in mind. I mean, the Christmas, New Year surge, that's coming in a week or two. And they're already rationing care. I mean, I'm not gonna lose my mind here again, but I don't understand how they are running out of oxygen in Los Angeles. Did they not? We knew this was coming, right? This is not March of last year anymore. Why are there not field hospitals? How is it even possible that we could be talking about rationing care in the United States of America in 2021? By the way, I just speaking of LA, I want to shout out June, who listens from Los Angeles. She's a social worker who wrote in yesterday that she works with teachers and that they've been adopting our mantra on Fridays. They say a week symptom-free is a week worth celebrating. And I just want to say I love that. That's amazing. Keep it up, guys.
And finally, a lot of news when it comes to entertainment this morning. Kim Kardashian and Kanye West are expected to file for divorce imminently, according to page 6 of the New York Post. Citing multiple sources, the gossip sheets reporting that Kardashian is, quote, done with West, and that West is completely over the entire family. Arguably the most famous celebrity couple in the world, the pair are said to be living separate lives, with West in Wyoming and Kardashian in LA. They have 4 children.
Okay, I just want to briefly, I know we're going over, I want to briefly read this line from this page 6 report because it's so weird and funny. So I'm just kind of quoting the New York Post. Kanye reluctantly showed up for Kim's ridiculously extravagant 1 million plus 40th birthday party in Tahiti last October for just one day. He showed up late and left early. He wouldn't appear in any of their Instagram shots. All he did was bring over the hologram of her father, Robert Kardashian, then got out of there as fast as he could, according to the source. It's just like, what planet are we on here? Also, Jill, I just want to mention on the entertainment beat, Dr. Dre is in the ICU at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles today. He suffered an apparent brain aneurysm, according to multiple reports. The rapper and mogul did post on his social media yesterday that he was, quote, doing great and getting excellent care and expects to be home soon. So obviously we'll follow that and we'll send our thoughts to Dre, one of the greatest.
Any one of these stories, Carlo, in a normal world would have been the lead story. That Dr. Dre story, actually, I mean, it kind of got buried yesterday just because of the election and everything else that was going on.
Aneurysm's no joke.
And Dr. Dre, beloved. My husband actually walked down the aisle. We walked down the aisle to the musical versions of rap songs, of hip hop songs, and my husband walked down to a Dr. Dre song.
Which one?
I think Forget About Dre.
Forgot about
Dre? The one that goes like dun 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 dun.
Oh man, is there video of that? Can you get that out?
Yes, of course. I'll send it to you.
God.
I don't know if my husband's pretty private, even though I talk about him all the time, but I'll send it to you and I'll get his permission before tweeting it.
Fair enough.
All right, everybody, take care of yourself. That's what you need to know for Wednesday, January 6th.
See you tomorrow, guys.